bit of breaking news here. Biden is announcing student loan debt relief today, and it is what he said he would do, the bare minimum. Unfortunately, it is means tested, which I was
Which is actually
hoping.
not what he said he would do either. He said it would be for everybody. So that's a broken promise.
Yes. So the amount is his campaign promise, is it not, Matt? Or did he go lower? I'm
No, he
forgetting.
said so like the campaign was always like we're going to do $10,000 for everyone, and we're going to have
10.
our legal minds like take a magnifying glass out and scour the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights to see if he can do it. Of course, he could do it. If he can do this 10,000 means tested thing, he could do 50,000. He could do more, and they just decided that they can do basically the absolute bare amount. I mean, this is like. It's sort of like, the $2,000 checks thing. And then it's like, well, we're going to give you the bare amount of money that can make it seem like that promise was kind of kept.
It is, yeah, right, exactly. And it is, means testing is always a way to shoot yourself in the foot. But from their perspective, they are terrified of suburban conservative voters who don't like Trump and might be more inclined to vote Democrat in the fall, feeling like, well, this is unfair. They're giving handouts to rich kids. So they've capped it at income at $125,000 a year, which, hopefully it does help some people. But the whole point, really, of student debt as a disciplinary tool is to funnel folks into industries that might be better suited to serve capitalists. Say you're going to law school and you have a lot of student debt, you're maybe less inclined to be a public defender instead of, say, working at a white collar law firm. Yeah. Or if you're a doctor, you might be working at a big hospital chain, or instead of going to underserved communities. Other graduate degrees you can copy paste that analysis onto. But let's put up this graphic that Biden put up here. Biden tweeted this out. He has yet to make his formal announcement, but he at least has kind of settled on this after like a year of his legal team deciding if $10,000 was enough. $20,000 if you went to college on Pell Grants, which is, again, the centrist Democrat darling, the kinds of grants that they give out for students that are deserving in their eyes and apply for them. $10,000 of debt cancellation if you did not receive Pell Grants, and it's going to be capped at $125,000. And the moratorium on student loan repayment will be extended one final time. Wow. All right. Exactly. So they made that pretty definitively through the end of the year.
You see who they're speaking to here, right? Like,
yeah.
That point you just read, student loan pause extended one final time. That's why they're doing this. This is a carrot because they're going to whack you with a stick.
And I mean, with repayment starting again, I'm hopeful. Well, maybe hopeful is too strong of a word. I hope that there's a carrot and stick approach here, but that there's a secondary carrot at the end, right? Where hopefully Biden in his remarks today says something like, more could be coming, and this is not the end of it. We could provide more relief if Democrats are able to retain the House and the Senate in the fall. But actually, now that I talk that out, I don't think that's going to happen.
They're not going to do that. No, they want to be done with this until it becomes like even more of a larger debt bubble. And because this doesn't address the problem either. Like there's this Color of Change poll, 84% of black voters support student loan debt elimination. Poll results reveal more than half of black voters, 56, have held or are currently holding student loan debt. 84% support a full or partial elimination of debt, with 2/3 indicating they strongly support eliminating the debt. 9 in 10 black women support partial. But this is actually the important part. 40% of black voters indicated they want Biden-Harris administration to ensure that any student admitted into a public college can graduate without taking on student loans. Where there's nothing about that. We've not talked about what we're going to do this at all. It's just going to be more kids taking out loans for this stuff. and it just needs
Because
to
they
be
want that, right, Matt? Like
exactly.
that is it's not the bug, it is the feature. Student loan debt is a way, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that a certain class of young person doesn't get a little bit too confused about
Yeah,
what their role is in the labor market. If you go to college, you are here to serve the capitalist class. We want you to be an upper middle class professional. We want you in the professional managerial sector, and let's go, right? And this is the privilege that we are affording to you by giving you, by saddling you with debt, and we're not going to give much in
exactly
terms
right.
of, repayment,
Like
or I should say forgiveness.
there shouldn't be this basically, like, the long thing we talked about on Left Reckoning last night was, how did this student loan system come into being? Well, if you look back in 1957, Sputnik happens. We're all freaked out because the Russians are crushing us in terms of like scientists and stuff like that. So Eisenhower feels like this is embarrassing to us. The new Senate Majority Leader Lyndon Baines Johnson is ready for to act on that. But the problem is, we like Eisenhower wants small government. And so how are we going to do this? Well, we beat around the bush for a while. And also, what also happens after Sputnik is there's a lot of red scare going on. So people are really freaked out about communism. So they don't want socialism. So what happens in like 1965 is LBJ's in charge. And there's this Alabama Democrat who wanted to do basically a universal higher ed, which is what we need to do, which what Bernie Sanders wanted to do. But the liberals, anti-communist liberals, and Republicans were against that. So instead, we passed like the National Defense Education Act, I think it was called, and that was. Let me back up. And we didn't just want to give LBJ, despite all these Great Society programs, we didn't just want to give the student loans out to folks because that would make the national debt look bad, particularly at a time when we're bombing Vietnam and need all those funds to go there. So we work with bankers and say, hey, bankers, we got an easy government adjacent, finance deal we can work out with you, where all you can take the profits for servicing these student loan debts. And like that's why we're here now. But fundamentally, we just need to go back to the point where we are just paying for this stuff instead of making giant bubbles through finance on it, because finance cannot it can only ever be profitable if it goes after the wealthy kids. When you have to extend education to everybody who isn't a rich kid, it's not a profitable business. And you look at the way colleges have been dealing with, say, scholarships for our entire lives. If you have $50,000 worth of scholarship to give away, are you going to give that to one kid who otherwise couldn't afford any of that tuition for a full ride? Or would you give it to 10 richer kids who are going to be able to make up that $40,000 later down the line? So it's like, it's a racist system. It's a horrible system. And also, the price for the universal public higher ed, which is the solution to this mess, where kids can go to their public universities and not come out in debt, is just like Bernie Sanders proposed, these taxes on speculation, which are percentages of percentages, or like tenths of percentages, hundreds of percentages on just speculative activity on like bond trading and stuff like that. And we could do that and actually address this problem instead of, can anybody argue that this is anything other than kicking the can down the road?
You can't, right? You can't argue anything other than that. And I think it sets up, because it's means tested, a variety of bureaucratic messes. Like, what tax filing is this based on? Again, we don't really know right now. It seems like a formal announcement from Biden is coming in an hour or so. But like, if you just made it universal, there would not be all of this tax data that would create messes like it did with the COVID relief payments for people. So I don't know. Someone wrote in here, so far so good. This is a mess. A few things come to mind. One, a 125K salary based on what year? This is the point I just made. Then we won't see forgiveness until after taxes are filed this year. And repayment starting Jan 1 would not be based on a lower student loan balance. Salary based on, or number two, salary based on a prior year. What if someone lost a job? Exactly. 3, my Fed Loan, a huge student loan servicer, is transitioning out by the end of this year. There's bound to be a huge bureaucratic mess as all borrowers like me are serviced by my Fed Loan are transitioned to a new servicer. And then they want to throw in means tested forgiveness. What a mess. It's just they make things harder on themselves. I always return to during COVID, Nancy Pelosi was adamant. We are not temporarily expanding Medicare. We are not going to do it because of, and she didn't say this publicly, but because of what that means. When you have a crack in the door, then people are going to say, well, why couldn't Medicare be expanded all the time for everybody? In fact, why couldn't we have Medicare for all? And they're doing the same thing here with the means testing of student loan repayment or student loan debt relief. Because if you do it as a universal program, then people start asking questions. Same thing with the Medicare expansion potential during COVID. We're going to do it through COBRA, and it's going to be 4 times more expensive, even though we say we care about things being cost effective in Congress. Yeah. It's also going to be a bureaucratic mess, and it's going to piss everybody off. Obamacare is another good example of this. And it won't actually pay dividends for us electorally, but that's not necessarily our primary goal.
Yeah.
We want to give enough so that we maintain power. But if we don't, that's the trade-off, because the scarier thing is having these programs be universal and taxes be raised on the wealthy and corporations to pay for it. So I'm happy that some people will get some relief, and that's good. But this is the bare minimum, and it's actually less than what he promised on the campaign trail.
And this is like the Democrats, like when they say access to healthcare or access to education or access to a home, what they mean is we're going to bring in a banker buddy who's going to take a nice cut of that, and that's how you're going to get access to it. You can finance it, which again means a claim on your future labor instead of just granting these things as public goods, which they should be. And I mean, yeah. This is a failure, and I'm not interested. Like, of course it's better than the fucking Republicans, like, great, but this is a failure in policymaking, just objectively speaking, in a debt crisis and in a where everyone's looking around like, why aren't people having families and all this stuff? It's not a mystery. It's intentional policy, and they know this. Like, this stuff isn't lost on people like Larry Summers or even Joe Biden. Like, they understand the function that debt has in making labor more pliable.